The red light burns into Marcus's retinas as he approaches Woodward and Grand River. Time freezes. Glass explodes. Metal screams against asphalt. Bodies thrown like ragdolls across the intersection. 23 souls snuffed out in seconds. His passengers' faces flash before him. The same faces lying motionless in twisted wreckage. The light changes to green, but Marcus's hands shake uncontrollably on the steering wheel. This isn't just fear. This is knowledge. Marcus pulls the bus over 3 blocks before the intersection, his heart hammering against his ribs. The familiar weight of 23 passengers behind him feels different, now heavier, more fragile. Through the windshield, he can see the traffic light in the distance, its red glow pulsing like a heartbeat. "Driver, why are we stopping?" Call Sarah Chun from the 3rd row, adjusting her hospital scrubs. She's heading to her night shift, just like every Tuesday for the past 2 years. Marcus's mouth feels desert dry. "You have construction ahead, folks. I'm going to take a detour through Corktown." His voice cracks slightly, betraying the lie. The usual murmurs of irritation ripple through the bus. Old Mr. Peterson taps his watch impatiently. The teenagers in the back don't look up from their phones. Sarah frowns. She knows this route, knows there's no construction scheduled. Marcus' radio crackles. "Unit 47, dispatch. You're showing off route." "Everything okay?" "All good, dispatch. Just avoiding some road work." Another lie that tastes bitter on his tongue. As he turns down Michigan Avenue, Marcus catches a glimpse of the intersection in his side mirror. Normal traffic flows through. No accident. No screaming metal. No broken glass painting the asphalt red. But the vision felt more real than the steering wheel under his palms. The bus rumbles through the narrow streets of Corktown, past the brick facades of gentrified restaurants and the skeleton frames of new condos. The passengers settle into their seats, some checking their phones for alternate routes, others simply staring out the windows at the unfamiliar scenery. Sarah stands and walks toward the front. "Marcus," she says quietly, using his name for the first time in 2 years of silent morning greetings. "Are you feeling all right? You look pale." He glances at her in the overhead mirror. Her dark eyes are kind but concerned, the same expression she probably wears when talking to worried families in the A. "Just tired, Miss Chen. Long day." She nods but doesn't return to her seat. Instead, she grips the metal rail as the bus navigates a pothole. "Maybe you should call in sick tomorrow." Sometimes our bodies know things before our minds do. The words hit Marcus like ice water. Sometimes our bodies know things before our minds do. Is that what happened? Did his body somehow sense the approaching catastrophe? "Unit 47, you're really off course now." The radio squawks again. "Need you to explain your deviation." Marcus reaches for the radio, then stops. How do you explain a vision of death to dispatch? How do you tell your supervisor that you saw every passenger's face in twisted metal and broken glass? "Just getting back en route now," he finally responds. But as they approach the next major intersection, Cass and Forest, Marcus's chest tightens. The traffic light ahead glows red, and suddenly he can see it again. Different angle, different cars, but the same devastating collision. The same faces, the same screening metal. His foot finds the brake, and the bus lurches to a stop 50 feet from the intersection. "What the hell, man?" shouts one of the teenagers. Sarah grabs the rail tighter. "Marcus?" The light turns green. Traffic flows normally. Nothing happens. But Marcus can still see it. The ghostly overlay of destruction superimposed on the peaceful intersection. His passenger's reflection in the windshield looks like a photograph of the soon-to-be-dead. 3 days later, Marcus sits in Zeke's diner on 8 Mile, staring at the untouched cup of coffee growing cold between his hands. The morning news drones from the mounted TV in the corner, but he's not watching. He's remembering. Yesterday, old Mr. Peterson didn't take the bus. Today, The obituaries report his death slipped in his bathtub, cracked his skull on the ceramic edge. Just like that, one face from Marcus's vision was gone. The bell above the diner door chimes, and Sarah Chun walks in, her nurse uniform wrinkled from a double shift. She spots Marcus immediately and slides into the opposite booth. "You've been taking different routes all week," she says without preamble. "And Mr. Peterson is dead." Marcus's coffee cup rattles against the saucer as he sets it down. "People die every day, Miss Chun." "Sarah," she corrects. "And not people who've been riding the same bus route for 15 years without incident." She leans forward, lowering her voice. "I work trauma, Marcus. I see patterns. I see when things don't add up." The diner's fluorescent lights flicker, casting intermittent shadows across their faces. Outside, Detroit's November wind howls through the skeletal branches of dying elms, rattling the windows. "What do you want me to say?" Marcus's voice is barely audible above the ambient noise of clattering dishes and muffled conversations. "I want you to tell me why you look terrified every time we approached an intersection this week. I want you to tell me why you keep staring at passengers like you're seeing ghosts." Marcus studies her face, the determination in her dark eyes, the way her jaw sets when she's made up her mind about something. In his vision, she was thrown clear through the bus's front windshield, her neck bent at an impossible angle. "You wouldn't believe me," he whispers. "Try me." So he does. He tells her about the vision, about the red light that burned itself into his retinas, about seeing 23 deaths in excruciating detail. He describes the sound of grinding metal, the smell of burning rubber, and something worse, the way time seemed to crystallize in that moment of absolute horror. Sarah listens without interruption, her expression shifting from skepticism to something approaching belief. "And now Mr. Peterson's dead," she says when he finishes. "Bathroom accident? Just like I saw, only different, smaller. You think by avoiding the intersection, you scattered the deaths, made them individual instead of collective." Marcus nods slowly. "I think I cheated something. And now it's collecting what it's owed." The diner's TV volume suddenly increases, making them both jump. The news anchor's voice fills the space. "The second unusual death in Detroit's Corktown area this week. 28-year-old Jennifer Walsh, a frequent public transit user, was found electrocuted in her apartment after what appears to be a freak power surge. ... Sarah's face goes white. Jenny Walsh. She sits in the back, usually reads romance novels. Marcus closes his eyes. Another face from the vision. Another debt collected. "We need to warn them," Sarah says, standing abruptly. "All of them. Everyone who was on that bus. Warn them of what? That death is coming to collect?" Marcus shakes his head. "They'll think we're crazy. Maybe we are crazy. But maybe we're the only ones who can see what's happening." As they leave the diner, Marcus catches sight of the traffic light at the nearest intersection. Even in daylight, even at a distance, the red bulb seems to pulse with malevolent awareness. He blinks, and for just a moment, he swears he can see reflections moving within its scarlet depths, faces he recognizes, mouths open in silent screams. The light changes to green, but the images remain burned into his vision like camera flashes in reverse. Detective Ray Coleman's desk at Detroit PD's 3rd Precinct drowns under manila folders, each one representing what the department classified as accidental deaths. But patterns emerge when you spread 23 files across a conference room table like puzzle pieces. "All public transit users," he mutters, circling dates and addresses on a wall-mounted map with red marker. "All on the same general route, all dead within 10 days. His partner, Detective Lisa Hayes, pours stale coffee from the break room pot. "Ray, people die. Detroit's not exactly known for its safety record. Not like this." Coleman taps the marker against his temple, a nervous habit developed over 25 years of police work. Bathtub slip, electrical fire, food poisoning, carbon monoxide leak, falling air conditioner. When's the last time you saw this many freak accidents in one demographic? Coleman. Hayes sits heavily in her chair, the springs creaking under her weight. You want to call it a conspiracy? Someone targeting bus riders with elaborate death traps. This isn't a movie, Ray. But Coleman isn't listening. He's staring at the photograph of Marcus Thompson that a witness provided, the bus driver who'd been taking unusual routes all week. According to dispatch records, Thompson had deviated from his assigned route 7 times in 5 days, always claiming construction or road hazards that didn't exist. The phone rings, jarring them both from their thoughts. He listens for 30 seconds, his expression growing darker. We'll be right there. Another accident? Hayes asks as they grab their coats. Cass corridor. 19-year-old kid named Devin Martinez fell down a flight of stairs at his apartment complex. Hayes pauses at the door. Let me guess, regular bus rider? Route 47. The November air bites at their faces as they emerge from the precinct. Detroit's skyline looms gray and imposing against the overcast sky, its windows reflecting the dull light like dead eyes. Their breath forms small clouds that dissipate quickly in the wind. Devin Martinez's apartment building stands like a monument to urban decay, brick facade crumbling. Fire escape, rusted orange with age. Windows covered in grime and resignation. The boy's body lies at the bottom of 3 flights of concrete stairs, his neck twisted at an angle that speaks to the violence of his fall. Witnesses? Coleman asked the uniforms on scene. Couple in 2B heard him fall around 3 said it sounded like a body bouncing down every step. The young officer looks green around the gills. The MTS think he probably died on impact with the landing. Coleman examines the stairwell. No obvious signs of foul play. No evidence of a struggle. Just worn concrete steps, a flickering fluorescent light, and the chalk outline of where Devin Martinez's short life ended. But something feels wrong. The stairs are wide enough, well lit enough, despite the failing bulb. Devin was young, presumably sure-footed. People navigate these stairs every day without incident. Hey, Ray, Hayes calls from the second-floor landing. Take a look at this. She's holding a monthly bus pass, Route 47 clearly visible on the magnetic strip. Found it in his back pocket. According to the date stamp, he rode the bus Tuesday morning. Coleman feels the familiar tingle of a case taking shape. Same day Thompson started his detours. They spend the next 3 hours canvassing the building, interviewing neighbors, building a timeline of Devin's final day. The picture that emerges is mundane work at a downtown coffee shop, evening classes at Wayne State, home by midnight. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. But as they prepare to leave, Mrs. Kowalski from 3C pulls Coleman aside. That boy, she whispers, glancing nervously toward the stairwell. He was scared of something these past few days. Kept looking over his shoulder, jumping at shadows. Asked me twice if I'd seen any strangers in the building. Did you? She shakes her head. But Tuesday night, around 2 a.m., heard him talking to someone on the phone. Sounded upset. Kept saying, it's not real. It can't be real. Coleman and Hayes exchange looks. Mrs. Kowalski, Hayes says gently, did Devin ever mention anything about visions, dreams, premonitions? The old woman's eyes widen. How did you know? He came to me Wednesday. Looked terrible. Said he kept seeing himself die. Kept dreaming about falling down these very stairs. Asked if I believed in psychics, fortune tellers, that sort of thing. She pauses, wrapping her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. I told him it was just stress from school. As they walk back to their car, Coleman's mind races through the implications. 23 accidental deaths, all involving people who use public transportation. A bus driver who suddenly started avoiding his regular route. And now evidence that at least one victim may have had advance warning of his death. Ray, Hayes says as they pull away from the curb, what if someone is targeting these people? What if Thompson knows something? Coleman stares out at the passing streets, noting how many intersections they pass, how many red lights they encounter. Each one seems to pulse with a significance he can't quite grasp. Then we need to find him before the pattern completes itself. Sarah Chun's apartment in Midtown Detroit feels smaller with 3 people crammed around her kitchen table. Marcus sits across from Detective Coleman, his weathered hands wrapped around a mug of tea that's gone cold. The detective's notebook lies open between them, pages filled with dates, names, and theories that sound insane when spoken aloud. 17 dead in 8 days, Coleman says, his voice carrying the weight of too many crime scenes. All passengers from your regular route. All seemingly accidental deaths that follow no logical pattern. Marcus's eyes are bloodshot from lack of sleep. Every time he closes them, he sees the red light, sees the faces of his passengers twisted in metal and glass. You think I'm killing them somehow? I think you know more than you're telling me. Sarah intervenes before the tension can escalate. He saw their deaths before they happened, Detective. He's been trying to save them. Coleman's pen stops moving across the page. In 25 years of police work, he's learned to recognize truth when he hears it, no matter how impossible it sounds. The haunted look in Marcus's eyes isn't guilt. It has the expression of a man who's seen too much. Tell me about the vision, Coleman says quietly. So Marcus tells it again, describing every detail of the intersection collision that never happened. The sound of Sarah's neck snapping. The way Mr. Peterson's face looked pressed against shattered glass. The smell of gasoline and blood mixing on warm asphalt. And now they're dying one by one, Marcus finishes. Different deaths, but the same result. Like something's collecting what it's owed. Coleman flips through his notebook. Jennifer Walsh, electrocuted. Devin Martinez, fell downstairs. Maria Santos, food poisoning. Timothy Burke, carbon monoxide leak in his garage. He looks up. How many passengers were on your bus that morning? 23 regular riders. And how many are still alive? Sarah does the math on her phone. 6, including Marcus and myself. The apartment falls silent, except for the distant sound of Detroit traffic and the heating system cycling on. Coleman studies the 2 people across from him, a bus driver and a nurse. Both intelligent, both clearly terrified of something beyond normal human experience. There's something else, Coleman says finally. 3 of the victims had called family members or friends in the days before their deaths. All reported having nightmares, premonitions, a sense of impending doom. Devin Martinez specifically dreamed about falling downstairs. Marcus's face goes pale. They saw it too? Brief glimpses, maybe. Fragments of what you saw in detail. Coleman closes his notebook. There's a theory in quantum physics that suggests consciousness can sometimes perceive future events, especially traumatic ones. Maybe you're more sensitive to it than most. Sarah stands and walks to the window overlooking the street. Below, the evening rush hour creates its usual ballet of cars and pedestrians navigating the urban maze. So what do we do? Hide the remaining passengers? Lock them in protective custody? We can't force people into police protection based on supernatural premonitions, Coleman replies. But we can warn them. Give them information to make their own choices. Marcus shakes his head. You think they'll believe us? You think anyone would? Some will. The ones who've been having the dreams, the nightmares. They'll listen because they're already scared. The conversation is interrupted by Sarah's phone buzzing against the table. She glances at the screen, and her face goes white. What is it? Marcus asks. Text from Detroit General. Emergency staff meeting about Angela Rodriguez. Sarah's voice is barely audible. She was supposed to work tonight, but they found her in her apartment this afternoon. Apparent suicide. Coleman snatches the phone, scrolling through the message. Overdose of prescription medications. Left no note. Marcus stands so quickly, his chair topples backward. Angela always sat in the front row, right side. Always wore that blue coat with the missing button. His voice breaks. She was thrown through the windshield in my vision. Her face was the first one I recognized. The three of them stare at each other in the growing darkness of Sarah's apartment. Outside, streetlights begin to flicker on, and somewhere in the distance, a traffic light cycles through its eternal pattern of red, yellow, green. 5 passengers left, Coleman says grimly. Sarah picks up her phone again. I'm calling in sick tonight. I'm Marcus. You need to do the same tomorrow. We can't keep following the routine, can't keep walking into whatever this is. But even as she speaks, they all know that hiding won't work. The deaths are accelerating, becoming more creative, more persistent. Whatever force Marcus witnessed at that intersection isn't going to be cheated indefinitely. Through the window, they can see the traffic light at the nearest intersection. Even at this distance, even through the glass, the red bulb seems to pulse with malevolent awareness, counting down to an inevitable conclusion. Marcus closes his eyes, but the crimson afterimage remains burned into his retinas, pulsing like a heartbeat, like a timer, like the countdown to something terrible that cannot be stopped. The fluorescent lights in Detroit General Hospital's break room cast harsh shadows across the faces of the 4 remaining passengers. Sarah had managed to contact them all. Rosa Delgado, a cleaning woman from southwest Detroit. James Whitfield, a maintenance worker heading to his night shift. Patricia Moore, an elderly woman who used the bus for grocery shopping. And Thomas Kim, a college student at Wayne State. They sit around the circular table like survivors of a disaster that hasn't happened yet, each wearing the same expression of confused fear. Marcus stands by the window, unable to sit, unable to stop moving. Detective Coleman leans against the wall, his badge visible, but his presence unofficial. This is insane, Thomas says, running his hands through his black hair. You're retelling us we all going to die because a bus driver had a bad dream. Not a dream, Sarah corrects. A vision. And 17 people who were on that bus are already dead. Patricia Moore's weathered hands shake as she reaches for the cup of water Sarah provided. I've been having nightmares, she admits quietly. 3 nights now. I keep seeing myself in my kitchen, and the gas stove ... double quotes. She trails off, unable to finish. Rosa nods slowly. My dreams show water. Always water. I wake up feeling like I'm drowning. The room falls silent, except for the distant sounds of hospital activity pages over the intercom, the squeak of wheels on linoleum, the electronic beeping of machines keeping people alive. James Whitfield, a large man with calloused hands and skeptical eyes, finally speaks. Even if we believe this craziness, what are we supposed to do? Hide in our houses forever? That won't work, Marcus says without turning from the window. They're getting more creative, more persistent. Angela Rodriguez locked herself in her apartment with 3 deadbolts. It didn't matter. Coleman steps forward. I've spoken with my captain. We can provide some protection, but it's limited. Welfare checks, increased patrols in your neighborhoods, but ultimately ... Ultimately, we're on our own, Thomas finishes. Sarah pulls out a sheet of paper with phone numbers written in neat handwriting. Stay in contact. Call each other every few hours. If something feels wrong, if you have a bad feeling about anything, trust it. Don't dismiss your instincts. Patricia takes the paper with shaking hands. How long do we have to live like this? Marcus finally turns from the window, and they all see the exhaustion etched into his features. I don't know. The vision showed all 23 deaths happening at once. By spreading them out, maybe I bought us time. Or maybe I just made it worse. Rosa stands up, gathering her purse and coat. I'm going to stay with my sister in Toledo for a while. Get out of Detroit completely. That might be smart. Coleman agrees. Disrupting your normal patterns, changing your environment. But even as he says it, they all sense the futility. Whatever force is at work doesn't seem limited by geography or logic. It's patient, adaptive, and utterly relentless. As the group begins to disperse, Thomas approaches Marcus. The intersection where you saw the accident, where was it exactly? Woodward and Grand River. Why? Thomas's face goes pale. I drive through that intersection every Tuesday on my way to night classes. Same time, same route. He pauses, processing the implications. What if you didn't prevent the accident? What if you just postponed it? The thought hits Marcus like a physical blow. He's been so focused on the individual deaths, on the passengers being picked off one by one, that he hadn't considered the original timeline. Tuesday morning, Route 47, Woodward and Grand River. What day is it? Marcus asks, though he already knows. Monday, Sarah replies. Tomorrow is Tuesday. The break room suddenly feels suffocating. Through the windows, they can see the Detroit skyline painted in shades of gray and amber, the city lights beginning to twinkle as darkness falls. Somewhere out there, traffic lights cycle through their eternal pattern, counting down to something inevitable. We need to stay away from that intersection tomorrow, Coleman says. All of us. No matter what. But Marcus is remembering something else from his vision. The timestamp on the dashboard clock when the accident occurred. 8:47 May. The exact time he passes through that intersection every Tuesday morning on Route 47. It's not just about avoiding the intersection, he realizes. It's about the entire sequence. The route, the timing, the passengers. We disrupted part of it, but not all of it. Sarah checks her watch. It's almost 9 p.m. In less than 12 hours, need to finish. They all understand. Tomorrow morning, one way or another, the vision that has haunted Marcus for over a week will finally come to its conclusion. As they prepare to leave the hospital, Marcus catches sight of a traffic light visible through the break room window. The red bulb pulses steadily, and in its crimson glow, he swears he can see faces all 23 passengers, including his own, staring back at him with the hollow eyes of the already dead. The light changes to green, but the faces remain, burned into his retinas like a photograph of the future that refuses to be changed. Tuesday morning arrives gray and bitter, with November wind cutting through Detroit's streets like a blade. Marcus sits in his parked car 3 blocks from the depot, watching other buses pull out for their morning routes. His hands shake as he dials dispatch. Thompson here. I'm calling in sick today. Again, Marcus. This is the 4th time this month. I know. I'm sorry. I just I can't drive today. He ends the call before his supervisor can respond. Through his windshield, he watches Route 47 pull away with a substitute driver, someone who doesn't know about the vision, doesn't know about the intersection at Woodward and Grand River. His phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. Staying home today. Rosa made it to Toledo. Patricia is with her daughter in Ann Arbor. Thomas didn't answer his phone. Marcus's blood turns to ice. He tries calling Thomas Kim, but it goes straight to voicemail. Then James Whitfield, same result. At 8:30 MA, Marcus makes a decision that will haunt him forever. He starts his car and drives toward downtown Detroit, toward the intersection that has consumed his nightmares for over a week. The Tuesday morning traffic flows normally along Woodward Avenue. Office workers clutch comps and check their phones. Students hurry toward Wayne State campus. The ordinary rhythm of city life continues, oblivious to the supernatural deadline counting down minute by minute. Marcus parks 2 blocks from the intersection and walks closer, his heart hammering against his ribs. At 8:45 MA, he positions himself across the street from where the accident should occur, if it's still going to occur. The traffic light cycles through its pattern. Red, yellow, green. Nothing happens. 8:46 MA, a familiar figure approaches the bus stop, Thomas Kim, backpack slung over his shoulder, earbuds in place. Despite all the warnings, despite the meeting at the hospital, he's following his normal routine. Marcus starts to cross the street. intending to physically drag Thomas away from the intersection. But the light turns red, trapping him on the opposite corner. 8:47 a mile, the world explodes. It doesn't happen the way Marcus saw in his vision. There's no massive collision, no chain reaction of vehicles. Instead, a single car, a blue sedan that ran the red light, strikes Thomas Kim as he steps into the crosswalk. The impact sends him flying, his body hitting the asphalt with a sound Marcus will never forget. But that's not the end. As Thomas lies motionless in the street, Marcus sees them ghostly figures materializing at the intersection. Mr. Peterson, transparent and shimmering. Jennifer Walsh, her form crackling with electrical energy. Devin Martinez, his neck bent at an impossible angle. All 17 of the dead passengers, gathering at the place where they should have died together. They turn toward Marcus with empty eye sockets and mouths open in silent screams. Their presence creates a pressure in the air, a weight that makes breathing difficult. The few living people at the intersection, drivers, pedestrians, shop owners, seem unaware of the supernatural congregation. Marcus tries to run, but his legs won't obey. The ghostly passengers begin to move toward him, their forms becoming more solid with each step. Behind them, the traffic light pulses red with an intensity that hurts to look at directly. He understands now. The vision wasn't a warning. It was an appointment. By scattering the deaths, he hadn't cheated destiny. He'd simply delayed the final collection. The intersection was always going to claim its due, one way or another. The spirits reach him, their cold presence enveloping him like fog. Marcus feels his heartbeat slowing, feels the warmth leaving his body. In the distance, he can hear sirens, can hear Detective Coleman's voice shouting his name. But it's too late. As consciousness fades, Marcus sees the traffic light one final time. In its crimson depths, new faces are forming. Sarah Chun, Rosa Delgado, Patricia Moore, James Whitfield. The next wave of passengers who will ride Route 47, who will pass through this intersection, who will feed the hunger of whatever dark force inhabits this seemingly ordinary corner of Detroit. The light changes to green, but Marcus Thompson will never see another color again. Detective Coleman's report lists Marcus Thompson's death as a heart attack brought on by extreme stress and sleep deprivation. The official cause for Thomas Kim is vehicular homicide by a drunk driver who fled the scene. Sarah Chun requests a transfer to a hospital in Chicago. She never rides public transportation again. 3 weeks later, a new driver is assigned to Route 47 on his first Tuesday morning. Approaching the intersection at Woodward and Grand River, he has a vision of terrible clarity. 23 new faces twisted in metal and glass, a red light that pulses with malevolent hunger, and the absolute certainty that some appointments with death cannot be avoided, only postponed. The cycle begins again. What other intersections in America hide similar secrets? What other ordinary places mask extraordinary malevolence? Subscribe to discover the dark truths lurking in the shadows of everyday life.